The next morning, my husband has brought some of his luggages out waiting for me in the sitting room. When I came out, I asked him why he brought out his bags. I'm going for a meeting in Lagos. I will be back in a week time. Please take care of yourself and the house, he said. As he left, we couldn't even talk about what happened last night. I sat on the couch with my head bowed. All of a sudden, I felt a tickle. I turned to look and it was Sam. What do you think you are doing? I screamed. Oh, come on. Your husband is out of town. It's just me and you here. Why don't we utilize this time and have a lot of fun before he returns? Besides, your husband can and will never satisfy you. Ha ha ha, he said. I told him to leave me alone and that I love my husband whatever way he is. But he threatens to tell my husband everything going on between me and him. I became scared and gave in. He took me to his room and lay with me. This kept on going for days, as he wants to have sex with me every day. A few days later, Amaka, my friend, came to pay me a visit. When she came in, Sam walked in from his room, and they were both shocked to see each other. They gazed at each other for a minute, then I break the silence. What's going on? Do you both know each other? They both shouted, no. Sam went back to his room and Amaka hastily rushed out of the house without saying a word. Few days after my husband has left, I was about leaving the house for work. Sam rushed out of his room and dragged me back to my room upstairs. He tied me down and said to me this is my punishment for insulting him a year ago after he almost hit me with his brother's Benz. I was so scared because he looks like a psychopath who's always on drugs. For days I couldn't go out. I had no access to my phone and I hadn't taken my bath. He would come into my room, flog me, and threatens to tell my husband what we did if I ever say a word about this to anyone. A week and some days later, my husband was still not back and I haven't heard from him since I wasn't able to get access to my phone. I tried to loosen myself and when I was able to, I ran out of the house and went straight to my best friend's house. When I got there, Amaka was shocked to see me looking really tired and weak. I spent some days in her house, as she tries to help me get back to myself. She kept asking me what the problem was, but I couldn't open up to her. I was scared of losing my husband even though he treated me that way because of his condition. I couldn't betray him even though I did with his brother. I cried and decided to tell Amaka what has been happening to me. Amaka, hearing everything, was shocked. After some hours she said to me, we need to get of your brother-in-law if you still want your marriage. Hearing that, I was shocked. No, I can't have my hands stained with blood. I don't even know how to kill a fly, not to talk of human being like me. What if I get caught? She said to me, don't worry, I will help you eliminate him with no trace. I disagreed with her, but because I don't want to be a slave to Sam anymore and end up losing my husband, I decided to do what she said. On the night of the same day, we got ready, wore a mask and went straight to my house. I had a spare key to the house, so we passed through the back door and went in. Amaka asked to go in first, that she needs to be sure there's no one watching us so we don't get caught. When I got in, I saw Sam laying on a pool of blood. I screamed and Amaka rushed in holding her camera and started recording me with Sam on the ground. I told her what happened and that I think someone has already murdered him before we arrived. But she didn't say a word but kept recording me. I asked her why. She said nothing and that we should leave this place immediately. We ran out of the house and went straight to her house. What just happened there? She asked. I don't know. I think someone had him in mind. Or was he robbed and got stabbed? Did someone broke into the house? Amaka, I'm really scared right now. What are we going to do? I think he was murdered. For few minutes, Amaka couldn't say a word. I had to tap her. She jerked. Oh, sorry. We need to go back to that house and get his body out and clean up this whole mess. Else, if the police find out someone is dead in your house and you're missing, they're going to charge you for murder, she said. We hurriedly rushed to the house with a sack, put the body in it, and put in the boot of my car as we drove to the outskirts of town. We saw a very big river and threw his body inside. Went back to the house and cleaned up the blood, then went back to Amaka's house. A few days later, I went back home. I rushed to call my husband and asked if he has heard from his brother. He said no and that he would be back in 2 days. In the evening I called him again and told him his brother has not been home for days if he knows his whereabouts. But he said no. I was doing all of this so nothing looked suspicious, just the way my friend Amaka had advised me. Few days later, my husband has returned. We hugged and I served him his food. After food we discussed about what happened the other day about his small manhood. He then told me the reason he had traveled was because he had an appointment with a doctor to do a surgery on his manhood and that he never traveled to Lagos but he traveled to India for the operation, and it was a success. He then brought out his manhood to show me. It was very big. I was happy. And immediately a news pop up on the TV saying a dead body has been found from the bank of a river. They called his name because they were able to find his plastic ID card in his pocket. We screamed and rushed straight to the hospital where his core was. Few days after he was buried, the police started their investigations. I was called to the station for questioning. Months later I got a text. It was from Amaka saying she needs 20 million naira and if I'm unable to bring it, she will send the video she did the day Sam died to my husband and the police and I will go to jail. I became very scared. I replied her. But it wasn't me who did it. When I got in, her was lying dead already. But she threatens to report me to the police. I was so scared. I sent the last savings from my account to hers. I started living my life again. And few months later she sent me a message saying the 20 million I sent is finished and I should send more. I started asking my husband for money. Every week I would send her money. I even withdrew the money that was sent to my husband for a project. My husband started asking questions and what I've been doing with all the money. I kept giving him excuses about how I needed to pay for a loan my late father left and how I need to pay for my grandma's surgery. I kept giving lots of excuses. The next time Amaka called again, she demanded for 10 million. I was able to raise 5 million and sent to her, but she threatens to show the police. My husband went bankrupt because of me. There was nothing I could do again. So I thought of a plan, which is to get rid of her. The next day in the night, as I was about to go to her house, I saw my husband leaving the house. I asked where he was going. He said he will be back shortly. As he drove out, I also drove behind him. He headed directly to Amaka's apartment. When he got there, I watched him walk to Amaka's flat. I started wondering what business was going on between him and Amaka. Shortly he came out, walked to his car and drove out. I rushed back home before him. When I got inside, I sat down, and my head to the ground. I saw a glass under the couch, then I bent down to pull it out. It was a wristwatch stained with blood and it belonged to my husband. I was confused as to how the wristwatch got there and why it was stained with blood, exactly where Sam was lying dead. I heard a car horn, so I rushed inside the room as I was trying to hide the wristwatch. Hillary walked in. I moved my hand to my back trying to hide the wristwatch, but he noticed something was off with me. He immediately dragged my hands and the wristwatch fell to the ground. He picked it up and asked how I found it. My eyes were filled with fear and my body shivering as I asked, "Did you do it? Did you kill Sam? Was it you?" He didn't say anything for a few minutes, and later burst into tears. "I did it for you. I saw how he would drag you and sex you. I saw how he threatened you and how scared you were. I got really angry finding out my brother was sleeping with my wife. I got really angry, and that was why I stabbed him," he said. I screamed. He grabbed me and closed my mouth with his hand. I kept screaming and immediately, he hit my head to the wall and I fell to the ground. Few hours later, I regained consciousness. I was all tied up. He drew his seat closer to mine and said, "Amaka is dead. I killed her, because she became a threat to you. So I had to get her out of the way. And as for you, for sleeping with my brother, I will shoot you and shoot myself so we can all meet in hell." I started screaming. He shot me in the leg. I screamed, begging him to spare me. He brought the gun to my head, and as he was about to pull the trigger, I jacked up from bed with a loud voice. "No." My mom ran in and asked what the problem was. I was confused as I kept screaming and panting, "It's just a dream. It's just a dream," holding my head. Suddenly Amaka walked in. I ran and hugged her tightly, as everything was a dream and I'm back to reality.